Good evening, I'm Ashok, your Global Connection. Now plays a vital role in our evolution. Some even say our very survival and sustainability on Earth depends now on our individual and collective capacity to consciously shape our destiny. In this scenario, our future turns on our maturation as whole persons and global citizens. Are you a global citizen? Do you think we can make a conscious choice of who we can or should be? And what is conscious evolution? We're delighted to have with us tonight Dr. Barbara Marx Hubbard, a pioneer for 35 years in the emerging field of conscious evolution. Barbara is an inspirational speaker, author, and social innovator, and serves as president for the Foundation for Conscious Evolution in Santa Barbara. She was instrumental in founding various organizations, such as the World Future Society, the Foundation for the Future, and the Association for Global New Thought. Barbara, welcome to Philly Live.
Thank you, Ashok.
So great to have you with us.
Very happy to be here.
Thanks for staying over in Philadelphia just to be on the show.
Yes, well, you know, I went to Bryn Mawr 50 years ago.
That's right, and you lectured at Bryn Mawr over the weekend
Yes.
on awakening globalism. So we'll pick up on that a little later.
Yes.
But to help our viewers get a sense of conscious evolution, that's a very unfamiliar term in a way. What is conscious evolution?
Well, Ashok, there's a new situation on Earth. For the very first time, humans have the power to destroy our whole life support system. And at the same time, and almost with the same power, they have the chance to restore the Earth, to free us from hunger, to explore the universe, to create an immeasurable future.
And what does consciousness have to do with that?
And consciousness has to do with how to understand our situation and start guiding the use of our powers and our lives toward a future commensurate with our deepest heart's desire.
Right.
Because we're affecting the future by everything we do.
What difference does it make, this conscious evolution? Do we need it really, or is it a luxury?
It's a new thing on Earth because evolution has been proceeding for billions of years.
Yes.
The formation of Earth, life, animal life, human life. But this is the very first time that humans have been conscious of the process and conscious that they're affecting it.
I see.
And conscious that we might render ourselves extinct or that we might evolve ourselves. And
Right.
from my point of view, conscious evolution is the evolution of evolution
I see.
by the fact that we're more conscious.
Now, you have on your website some beautiful images, and we're going to put one up now, that really
Yes.
capture that and help us viewers get a sense of this evolution. Let's take a look at that.
You know, if you just see it as a sweep of evolution,
Yes. Help us see, how do we read this?
well, you see that light at the beginning is the mind of the cosmos, the mind of God. And out of that field of all possibilities arose the first Big Bang.
Mm-hmm.
And then came the formation of Earth and life and animal life and human life. And conscious evolution means our turn on the spiral where you see all those different sectors.
Right. We'll put it back up again to just help our viewers get that. There's a
In
circle
health,
there. What is
in
that circle?
education,
Yes.
in economics, in science and technology, in arts and media, there are things that are breaking down, and there are things that are breaking through.
I see.
Conscious evolution means noticing what's breaking through, what's emergent, what's creative, what's sustainable, what's compassionate, and connecting the dots of what's emerging until you can see a new world.
I see.
And it starts with you as a person.
I see. Well, let's just invite our viewers to join in our conversation. You're watching Philly Live. I'm Ashok, your Global Connection. We'd love to have you join our conversation with a very exciting guest tonight, Dr. Barbara Marx Hubbard. Conscious Evolution. She's written a number of books, very exciting, and has been a great pioneer in this field. Do you think our consciousness matters now for our survival on the planet? And what does it have to do with the problems we face in global citizenship? Our lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, so pick up the phone, please. Take it further, Barbara. I would like to take another image from your website that gives us a more detailed look at that spiral. We're going to put that up now, and maybe you can help our viewers get a sense. Help us read this now.
Yes, what that is, it's just like the whole world, and it exists in neighborhoods, exists in regions, nations, and global society. And every culture and every society has its spirituality and religion. It has its environmental issues. It has its economic systems and so forth. Every sector of that circle is part of a function in our social body.
Right.
And conscious evolution is to try to identify and nurture and connect and communicate what's working,
I see.
what's created.
So that you have education, learning and education is one of those segments, right?
Yes.
Or justice and social security, another one.
Yes, and we all know that, for example, in education there are lots of problems. Children are distressed, are violent, are abused. On the other hand, there are educational programs. There are methods of teaching that are creating magnificent examples.
Right.
So we have to identify what's working for conscious evolution.
What do you mean what's working? How do you know what's working?
What I mean by what's working is what creates, for the individual, greater freedom, greater creativity, and greater love. For the community, what creates greater cooperation, greater sustainability, and greater justice. For the world, what creates greater security, greater interconnection, and global consciousness. It's pretty obvious what isn't working. What isn't working is violence. What isn't working is environmental degradation. What isn't working is the fact that we have nuclear proliferation. So what is the alternative to what's not working?
Right.
Conscious evolution is always looking to affirm and encourage what is working.
Barbara, do you think that consciousness helps to create the problems, of the devastating problems and questions we see around the planet?
I think that all our problems were created by the consciousness that we were in when we created them. And I think this whole thing started in 1945 when the U.S. dropped the first atomic bombs on Japan. The brilliance of Einstein to understand E equals mc squared revealed a power. We were in a certain state of consciousness. We were fighting the Nazis, and we built a bomb. And that showed that self-consciousness, with the power of nuclear, and now biotechnology, nanotechnology, quantum computing, that form of consciousness, with all this power in an interdependent world, can destroy us. So for maybe 5,000 years, we've had a rising of consciousness in the great beings.
So this goes on for a long time
in
now,
Buddha,
millennia.
in Jesus, in Mohammed, in Lao Tzu, in Confucius. We've had great beings, all of whom broke through.
You think they're involved in conscious evolution?
I do. They were the first ones.
Yeah. So talk about Jesus, for example. What way is Jesus in terms of advancing conscious evolution?
Jesus' life is, I think, an example of the next stage of human evolution. Like, we know the Father and I are one. For me, the Father is that core of the spiral in that evolution. I and you are one with the source of our creation. Jesus created in abundance. He was able to have the loaves and fishes. We could do that. Jesus could heal.
You think he was modeling this new kind of...
We can do that. Jesus could even transform and go beyond the animal-human life cycle. He could go into the resurrection, the ascension, the promise that we would all be changed.
Now, Christians might say that you're making him so human in a way, that isn't he God? I mean, what do you think
that
about
Jesus embodied the divine process of creation to the highest degree of perfection for the Western world. And that he told us, you will do the works that I do, and greater works will you do in the fullness of time.
Right.
And I believe if we could connect our Christ consciousness, which is the love of one another and love of God, with our capacities, socially, scientific, and technologically, we would find that we can become what I call a universal human and a universal humanity.
Now, I want to pick up on that, but now Richard from Morristown is here. Hi, Richard.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome.
Great, thanks for putting me on.
Yes, your question or comment.
My question is, wouldn't it be important to have a democratic world federation to be able to prevent the use of nuclear weapons in a war and guarantee freedom to all people?
Good question. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Now, when you hear something like a democratic world federation, it could scare some people, like one world government and so forth. What, in terms of this conscious evolution, what does it have to do with governance? I'm picking up on Richard's
Well, I
question.
was part of the World Federation movement, and I believe totally in democracy.
Yes.
And the original part of that was that democracies should unite. This was at the time of the Second World War, that if democracies were able to unite and spread the idea of democracy from the nucleus of those who had democracy, it would serve the world. And I really believe that's true. Now, whether world federalism will be the method of coming into a global, interactive, intercommunicating, cooperative society, I don't know. But I know we need that.
You keep repeating cooperative, united, and so forth. Is this? You speak of co-creation as well. Speak about that, please.
You see, I think that there is a whole system shift going on here. Let's start with the person. It is interesting to me that in every faith and religion, there are now individuals awakening to a deeper, direct contact of spirituality. They feel it inside themselves. They feel contact with the sacred, with their own deeper source. And then it awakens in you the desire to participate, the desire to be more active in expressing your creativity for the sake of the world. I call that co-creation. So here, Spirit, it comes in, it awakens you, and you want to express your love and your creativity in the world. And you need to be attuned to your own spirit. You need to be resonant with the love in your own heart. And then you need to connect with that with others, just like you and I are doing here.
Right.
We are deep friends. We both are inspired to activate for the sake of this globe. And we have to cooperate and even deeper co-create. Co-create means joining genius.
So when you become when you enter conscious evolution, this co-creative process is essential to that.
It is, because you don't cooperate out of being forced to. You don't feel you're giving up something. You actually feel you're creating and gaining something when you join with one another.
I see. Now Andre from media is with us. Hi, Andre.
How you doing?
Hi, welcome.
I actually had a question, and I spoke to a woman earlier, and you kind of answered it already when I was watching the show.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask her, I'm 17 now, and I'm coming to a point where I'm starting to question a lot of what this reality that I've come to know it as. And, like, I see where we've come in our evolution from the beginning of, like, human history to where we are now. And you can see how far we advanced, and, like, you can just imagine that that's only going to continue on later on in the future.
It may even be accelerating, it seems.
That, too, just with what, like you were saying, like, with nuclear weapons and everything that we have.
Yeah.
And it's like our consciousness so far hasn't evolved above, like, the animal kingdom. So we're all like, we have this power, but it's like giving a gun to a toddler.
Right. Now, Andre, do you have a question specifically for us?
Yeah. I'd want to ask, when would you say, or like, what steps do you think a person could take to help expedite the process of conscious evolution?
Right,
That's
thank you.
an excellent question.
Thank you so much, Andre. He's a 17-year-old person thinking so critically.
First of all, the very fact of asking that question
Yes, that's very good.
shows that you realize that we are like toddlers with powers of gods.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me, Andre, that we gained these powers out of a certain mental capacity and genius of the understanding of nature. And I don't want to denigrate that, because it could be a beautiful development of humanity. But we're being forced by the power that we've created to evolve in consciousness beyond the illusion of separation that comes from the mental mind.
Is there something about reality that keeps us connected? You keep coming back to separation, overcoming separation. Is that grounded?
Well, I think that what we see when we look at the process of creation, that there's a fundamental underlying reality that is both, could be called consciousness, could be called God, could be called spirit, and that each of us is arising up out of that. And as we mature, Andre, each person becomes more conscious of that spiritual force within themselves. And once you get conscious of that, this is my hope, you almost naturally want to come from your heart. And all the religions have said, love your neighbor as yourself, do unto others. What happens when your spiritual awakening occurs, you naturally love that in the other.
Right.
And actually, that's the basis of positive futures. Because if that isn't so, if we are not going to evolve in consciousness, then we probably can't force ourselves into it, even by World Federation. But when you look, Andre, at the story of evolution, you see a rise of consciousness through greater complexity. Molecule, cell, animal, human. We are ever more complex.
A tough question though. If you look around the world and apparently increasing violence taking place and the
Yes.
chronic patterns, one might say that we're not evolving. We're devolving. You know, we're going.
Yes.
But let's first, we'll come back to this, Barbara. Let's hear from Ronald from West Oak Lane. Hi, Ronald.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome to Philly Live.
Thank you. I have a question.
Sure.
The young lady that, if I heard correctly, she mentioned that biotechnology is having a negative impact on the evolution. I wanted to know, we as humans, I from what I understand, you know, we are a part of the Earth like any other species, and all species on this Earth, they evolve themselves. For example, with plant species, they perform their own natural biotechnology.
Everything seems to be, yes, right.
Right. So, do you think that we, even though we as humans, we're part of the Earth too? So, don't you think that we can use biotechnology as a tool as well as a new science to help with the evolution process with vegetation?
Thanks, Ronald. Very much. Good question.
What I meant to say clearly is that all those new technologies can either be destructive and misused, or they could be the tools of our healing and evolving our whole species, including biotechnology. It can cure disease. It can perhaps make for greater longevity, but it's a very dangerous and powerful tool that we have to have a wisdom and consciousness of how everything is interrelated with everything else.
I see.
Because, for example, if you have genetically engineered food, it might make for more abundant crops, but it might destroy other crops, and it might destroy the birds and destroy the insects. So, Ronald, you have to be very conscious when using the new technologies. The same thing is true with nuclear. It's a very powerful and dangerous technology. Some scientists have told me that it's only useful beyond the biosphere if we want to travel far distances in space. And it's interesting to me that some of these technologies may not be for Earth. We saw the astronauts, we stepped on the moon, and we looked back, there's Earth as one body. But we became physically universal. Maybe once we can heal and start cooperating here on Earth and handling our own problems here, we'll find we can expand in the universe. And biotechnology and nanotechnology might be useful beyond this world.
You're right. Harrison from Huntington Valley is with us. Hi, Harrison. How are you? Are you with us?
Oh, hello.
Hi.
I cannot. I have a loud buzz, but I can. If you can hear me, I will ask you the question.
Yes.
It has to do with a program such as you have right now. All of these things sound very nice. I'm all for everything that she stands for and has said.
Yes.
But I would like to know if she can relate what she's saying to everyday politics. For instance, today Congress introduced a bill that has to do with energy, and it relates to actually things that are against the environment.
Right, there.
Okay, now I can hear.
We lost the buzz there. Good.
Okay.
Good question. You got rid of the buzz.
Yes. Well, I'm just curious.
Just wrap it up, please.
Relate all of this to everyday politics.
Good.
In other words, these are all very good things that that anybody should stand up and say, I'm for that.
Thank you very
But
much,
there
Harrison.
are things that are going on now. You've got to relate it to everyday
Harrison,
things.
thank you so much.
I totally agree,
Right
Harrison.
to the point, yes.
And I think there are certain political candidates running for president, and I don't know if I dare mention them on this show, but for example, Dennis Kucinich, the congressman from Ohio, has a very positive stance politically. And there are thousands and thousands of people supporting him. And he's against the war in Iraq. He's for the environment. We have to register to vote, and we have to vote for members of Congress and for the president that supports these views.
Right.
We are in a democracy.
Harrison's question raises, it's great to talk about consciousness, but when you look at real politics, it seems to be so,
Yeah, but the
far
problem
apart.
is that as citizens, if we have a higher consciousness, we can vote for politicians who express our consciousness, and that's our responsibility.
What we're talking about tonight about conscious evolution and global citizenship.
Yes.
What is a global citizen, Barbara?
Well, it's really somebody who recognizes that he or she is part of the whole. part of the globe, and that everything we do, let's say in the United States of America, is affecting the environment, affecting citizens all over the world,
Right.
and that we have to have an identity and a concern for the globe as a whole, as well as for our own country and our own culture.
Right. Now, you're not alone in this kind of perspective. There are many other authors, I think, in the past decades, and even earlier, as you pointed out, with the great teachers. Could you mention some of your lineage? You're in a tradition,
Yes.
aren't you?
See, I come from a lineage which I would call evolutionary spirituality. It's different than just plain old spirituality or plain old evolution. Evolutionary spirituality sees, if you remember that spiral,
Right.
it sees the entire process of creation as inspired by a deeper design, a deeper spirituality. The authors that I find to be my two greatest teachers are Teilhard de Chardin for
Right.
Western culture and Sri Aurobindo from Eastern culture.
Right.
Currently, we have authors like Peter Russell, who wrote Awakening the Global Brain. We have Brian Swim, who wrote The Universe Story. We have Alan Lithman, who wrote The Human Agenda. We have many different people who are looking at evolution as a process of creation that we can now participate in
Right.
as spiritual, social beings.
Right, Barbara, how did you get inspired into this area of conscious evolution? Something happened along your lifetime?
It did. It started when we dropped the bomb on Japan.
I see.
And I, as a 15-year-old young woman, became extremely agitated because I always thought I believed in progress. I believed in knowledge. And I suddenly saw, with all that knowledge, we could destroy ourselves. But I wondered, with all that knowledge, could we come to a future that was more positive?
Right.
So at 15, I began a search for what are images of the future that are positive, that are equal to our potential. And that drove me into becoming a futurist. And basically, Ashok, I found that nobody knew. Because the situation of this degree of power to destroy and create has never existed at a global scale as far as we know in human history. So I became a visionary. And what I did is I started to piece together the potential. I'm not an optimist, I'm a potentialist.
Right. What's a visionary?
A visionary is one who sees a vision. And, you know, they say without vision, people perish. We don't have collective positive visions of where we're going as a human species. In our religions, we've had images like paradise, or the New Jerusalem, or the new heavens and the new earth, but they were mystical and after this life.
Right.
We need to have visions within this lifetime.
And so grounding it in evolution helps to...
It does.
Yeah.
And if you just even think of what it might be like if everything worked. I once did the Theater for the Future, and I imagined, what would it be like if we could sustain a more global universal consciousness? We know we can do that because we have.
Right.
What if we could actually be able to restore our environment and have clean energy? We know we could do that. And what would happen if we use biotechnology and healing to restore our health and evolve our lifespan, and so on? What if we could have a positive, peaceful space program? So I did a lot of what ifs, and I saw an image, which I call a universal humanity.
Right.
And my current poetic, spiritual inspiration is that the whole story of evolution is the birth of a species capable of co-evolving with nature and co-creating with spirit.
Right. Now, Cern is with us from Chestnut Hill. So let's take one last question. Our time is almost up. Hi, Cern.
Oh, it's Fern. Thank you
I'm
very
sorry,
much.
Fern.
Yes, thank you. And Barbara, I'm so thrilled to be able to ask you this question. I've been praying very much for world peace about the time, well, for a long time, my friends and I have prayed for world peace, but especially before we invaded Iraq. Prayed and prayed. I read a lot. I was trying to find out how I can.
Do you have a question?
affect
Time
world
is almost,
peace.
yes, time is
Well,
almost up.
Yes, my question is, I understand about having inner peace with myself and my neighbors, my family, etc. I just don't understand how my own inner peace will affect world peace.
Thank you very much.
Very
good question.
when I ran for
time's just about up,
vice
so-
president in 1984, I proposed a peace room to be as sophisticated as a war room.
So you were a vice presidential candidate.
I was, and I had my name placed in nomination in 1984 with Geraldine Ferraro. And I proposed, to tell our listener, a new social function that would map the innovations and breakthroughs, just like that wheel.
Right.
And actually, every locality and every region would start to look at what's positive and how to move toward it. And I actually think the way toward peace is the co-creation of a future that meets our deepest aspirations, and that we have to shift our attention from being against and protesting and what's going wrong toward what attracts us and moves us to create. And that co-creation will bring peace by liberating the creative potential of our people.
A little bit more about co-creation. You spoke of the universal human. This is a new stage of our evolution, isn't
I think
it?
so. The universal human is connected through the heart to the whole of life, is awakened by spirit to express and create, and that feels connected to a larger pattern or design. And there are millions of people like that. They're called often cultural creatives.
Right.
And it is said there are 50 million people in the U.S. who have their values shifting, but they all think they're alone. And I believe that the movement toward peace, towards justice, towards creativity will be the connecting of people who are creative.
Right. Now, just quickly, we have less than a minute. Your two books, your titles, our viewers would love to know that.
Yes.
Conscious Evolution.
Awakening the power of our social potential, which is how to connect and make peace and creativity in the world, and Emergence is how to start our own process
And that is a shift from
ego to essence.
to ego to essence. And you have a website, don't you?
www.evolve.org.
Evolve.org.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. And you're experimenting in Santa Barbara with a community.
We have a community of over 100 people, and we have an educational program that connects thousands of people worldwide in
Right.
practicing self and social evolution.
I see. We have just a few seconds left. You have a phone number some of our viewers might want to call.
Yes, 805-682-6675.
Well, Barbara, there's so much more to talk about tonight. We're going to have you back. You'll have to come back to Philadelphia.
Oh, I would love to.
Good. All the best with this wonderful work.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashok, and thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you very much for watching Philly Live and for your great questions tonight. And for more information on tonight's topic and all of our topics in WYBE, go to our website at wybe.org. And tomorrow on your Lesbian and Gay Connection with Deborah D'Alessandro, Can a Gay Fraternity Survive? And join me next week with David Corton when corporations rule the world. For Philly Live, I'm Ashok Angadine. Have a great evening. Good night.